The Colosseum of Zarthek had witnessed 1,000 deaths, but never had it fallen into such absolute silence. Even the usual chittering of the insectoid spectators in the upper tiers had ceased, their compound eyes fixed on the lone figure walking across the blood-soaked sand. Commander Zethrak of the Dominion Navy adjusted his ceremonial armor, the crystalline plates catching the harsh artificial light. Around him, representatives from 12 different species sat in stunned quiet, their various forms of breathing creating the only sound in the vast arena. The human, Terran, he corrected himself, moved with an odd, measured gait that seemed almost casual, as if he were strolling through a marketplace rather than entering what was essentially an execution chamber. "This is madness," whispered Ambassador Krita, her forearms gesticulating in the rapid patterns that indicated extreme distress among her people. "The creature hasn't even selected weapons, it's going to be slaughtered." Zethrak said nothing, though privately he agreed. The human, Captain Marcus Chen according to the files, had waived his right to choose from the weapon racks. He carried nothing but the simple gray uniform of the Terran Defense Corps, now torn and stained from his 3-month imprisonment. The gladiator gates groaned open with mechanical precision. What emerged made even Zethrak's battle-hardened veterans shift uncomfortably. The Krextor stood nearly 4 meters tall, its 6 arms ending in natural bone blades that could slice through starship hull plating. Its hide, thick as armor plating, bore the scars of 300 victories. No challenger had lasted more than 30 seconds against it in living memory. Chen stopped walking and tilted his head slightly, studying his opponent with the same detached interest one might show when examining an unfamiliar piece of machinery. The gesture was so utterly human, so mundane, that it seemed to break some unspoken spell. A nervous laugh escaped from somewhere in the diplomatic section. "Your species sent one individual to represent them in trial by combat," Zethrak announced, his voice amplified across the arena. "Against our champion. Death or surrender are the only exits. Do you have any final words, Terran?" Chen looked up at the commander's box, and for a moment, Zethrak felt something he hadn't experienced in decades of warfare: uncertainty. The human's eyes held no fear, no desperation. Instead, there was something that looked almost like amusement. "I have a question," Chen called back, his voice carrying clearly despite its conversational tone. "How exactly does your champion hunt?" The question was so unexpected that Zethrak found himself answering automatically. The Krextor is an apex predator. It stalks, overwhelms, and tears apart its prey through superior strength and natural weapons. "Ambush predator, then?" Chen nodded thoughtfully. "Makes sense with that build. Heavy muscle mass, those bone blades for quick kills. Probably relies on intimidation and rapid strikes to end fights before they really begin." The casual analysis sent an odd chill through the crowd. The human was discussing the creature that was about to kill him, as if it were a subject in a xenobiology textbook. The Krextor, perhaps sensing disrespect, let out a bone-rattling roar and charged. Its 6 limbs moved with terrifying coordination, closing the distance with impossible speed. The crowd held its collective breath. Chen stepped sideways. It was such a small movement, so economical that many spectators missed it entirely. The Krextor thundered past, its bone blades slicing empty air where the human had been standing a microsecond before. Chen had moved perhaps half a meter, no more, but it had been precisely the right half meter. The massive predator skidded to a halt, confused. It spun around, snarling, and attacked again with even greater fury. Chen stepped back this time, then forward, then sideways again. Each movement was minimal, calculated, and perfectly timed. The Krextor grew more frustrated with each miss, its attacks becoming wilder, less controlled. "Impossible," breathed Ambassador Krita. "How is it predicting the strikes?" Chen wasn't predicting, he was reading. Every species that had evolved as a predator telegraphed their attacks in subtle ways. The slight shift in weight distribution before a charge. The microsecond pause as neural signals traveled from brain to limb. The involuntary focusing of eyes on the intended target. Humans had evolved alongside creatures just as deadly as the Krextor, had survived by learning to read these signals in everything from saber-toothed cats to charging buffalo. More importantly, humans had evolved as persistence hunters. They didn't need to be faster or stronger than their prey. They just needed to outlast it. The Krextor was panting now, its massive frame requiring enormous amounts of energy to sustain its attacks. Chen, meanwhile, seemed barely winded. He was doing something else now, something that made Zethrak lean forward in his seat. The human was no longer just dodging. He was leading the creature, subtly guiding its movements, forcing it to turn more sharply than necessary, making it waste energy on dramatic flourishes. It's hurting it, Zethrak realized with growing amazement. The Terran is hurting a Krextor. 20 minutes into what should have been a 30-second execution, the great predator stumbled. Chen moved then with startling speed, not away from the creature but toward it, sliding between its legs and coming up behind it. His hands found a pressure point at the base of the creature's skull, a nerve cluster that every military officer knew about but had never thought to exploit in hand-to-hand combat. The Krextor collapsed, unconscious but alive. The arena remained silent for a long moment. Then Chen did something that would be remembered in Dominion military academies for generations to come. He helped the fallen creature into a more comfortable position, checking its breathing and pulse points with the gentle efficiency of a field medic. Your champion isn't dead, he called up to Zethrak. It's just sleeping. It fought well, but it evolved for quick kills, not endurance battles. My species learned to run prey to exhaustion across entire continents. We're very good at waiting for the right moment. As medical teams rushed onto the arena floor, Chen walked calmly toward the exit, pausing only to address the stunned crowd one more time. Oh, and Commander, you might want to reconsider your assessment of human military capabilities. What you just saw? That wasn't a warrior. That was an engineer. I fix hyperspace drives for a living. The arena erupted in chaos, but Chen was already gone, escorted by guards who now looked at him with something approaching reverence. Behind him, the greatest champion in Dominion history was being carefully loaded onto a medical transport, alive and unharmed. In the diplomatic boxes, 12 species began frantically revising their estimates of human potential. The Terran Defense Corps had just announced their presence on the galactic stage, not with superior technology or overwhelming firepower, but with something far more unsettling: the patient, methodical intelligence of a species that had climbed to the top of their food chain by simply refusing to give up. The arena fell silent once more, but now it was the silence of respect, and perhaps just a touch of fear.